Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hallinan at Home. Really? So, Star Wars, am I right? So I wanted to talk about the Star Wars movies because May the 4th just happened and George is joining me. He's upping my adorable quota because that's how you get views, I think. I watched the original trilogy as a real little kid. I saw them in theaters then when they were re-released, and at the time didn't hate all the changes. Now I'm a big ol' snob about it and wish that they would just have kept them the same. I still have like an old VHS that has them not messed with. So I thought that this week I would look at the core Star Wars series and rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, this is not ranking them from best to worst or like which one has more value from a cinematographic sort of point of view. This is just my personal opinion. So if you disagree, if you dislike it, it's my opinion. Go away. I'm also not going to include any of the side stories like the Ewok movies. I know that's this guy's favorites. He loves the Ewok movies. Or Solo or Rogue One, which honestly, I'll tell you right now, my favorite Star Wars movie is Rogue One. I'm also not going to include TV shows. This is just the core, what they're calling now the Skywalker saga. So let's start with my least favorite. So at the bottom of the list is Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. Oof. I'm not a big fan of the prequels in general, which I know, shocking opinion. But a lot of that isn't just the quality of the movies, because I can say good things about the prequels. The lightsaber fights are real intense. There's some cool ideas, some cool concepts. I hate the CG in them. I wish they would have gone back to kind of puppets. I do not think the acting's great. But again, the acting's not that great in a lot of the Star Wars ones from the 70s and 80s. I think what I really don't like about Episode 2 is I am definitely a less is more person with the Jedi. I think I think that having a bunch of them around demystifies them a little bit, and that makes them less cool. I like when there's like one left. I think the plot of this is really all over the place. I am not a big Hayden Christensen or Natalie Portman fan, and there's a whole bunch of that in this movie. I honestly can't even follow the plot. I normally, when I rewatch the films, do not make it the whole way through this movie, which is a shame because I think the one cool thing is the end of the movie, because there's a cool big battle, but I don't know why they're there. I know a lot of people love the Clone Wars series, which from what I can understand is done really, really well. This is just an era that I'm not that interested in, and this is just not a great execution of this idea. All right, so next on my list is Episode 3. Revenge of the Sith. A lot of people really, really like this movie, and I just find it very dull. I'm not interested in the war with the clones or any of that stuff. Everybody loves that opera scene. They think it's like wonderful, amazing acting. I've always just found it a little melodramatic and a bit dull. There's also a lot of stuff that feels like we had to put it in there to get to our real movies, the core series. Sorry to say real or not real, if this is a thing you like. I don't want to yuck your yum, but a lot of really forced, like, they make sure that the girl baby being born, the Leia baby, has her eyes open for like a second right after being born so that she can remember what her mother looked like because of a line in Return of the Jedi. Why not just make the kids alive for a little bit there? She died of a broken heart. Really? I also, one of my least favorite things about this, Darth Vader is supposed to be the biggest, scariest dude in the galaxy, and this is, we see him turn over to the dark side here. That he's responsible for hunting down and killing the Jedi. No. The proto-stormtroopers, the clone troopers, are responsible for shooting down all the Jedi, which is stupid. All he does is kills a bunch of 10-year-olds. Which I think they wanted to show, this is how far he's gone. But what it showed me was he was really good at killing the easiest Jedi to kill. That's like the only thing he does. Oh, and his wife. But I think that's accidental. I don't care for this movie. Oh boy, okay. Episode 1, The prequels are the bottom three. I think they're the worst movies in all of Star Wars. Episode 1, I make a lot of excuses for. It's not a good movie, but when I was 9 and this thing came out, I saw this in theaters like 10 times. And it's bad. I mean, the crawl is bad. It starts off talking about like trade and embargoes. It was like being in history class. But I think it's the most engaging to get through. It feels shorter than episodes 2 and 3. There's not Hayden Christensen in it. You're hanging out a lot more with Ewan McGregor, who is the best thing about the prequels. Him as the young Obi-Wan Kenobi is great. I have no complaints there. There's also Liam Neeson's pretty cool. Yeah, I know it's got a lot of Jar Jar Binks in it. As a kid, that didn't bother me that much. Now he really annoys me. Has one of the coolest lightsaber fights ever in it. So yeah, it has a lot of dumb, but of the three, if I have to sit down and watch one, I'd rather watch this than the other two. Sorry, I had to change my glasses. I had some contact issues. So let me start out with this. I liked Rise of Skywalker a lot. I enjoyed all the stuff with Rey and Kylo Ren, all the stuff between them, rather. I liked what they were able to get for Carrie Fisher, which is a shame that she passed away before they could finish this movie. I like seeing Lando Calrissian again. He is like my favorite Star Wars character. I like the C-3PO stuff. It's a good movie. It has a really cool space battle, has some good action, has an okay story. But I think my problem with it is it's just an okay story. It has a lot of pacing issues. I feel like some things are just added in because it's the end. We need this for this character. They start talking about Poe Dameron's past a little bit, and it feels kind of forced. They go to this planet where you meet like someone he used to know, and then that character's just like in the movie, not in the movie, in the movie a little bit. And it feels like padding. It's weird. There's so much of it that feels like padding, and the first half hour of the movie is bam, 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 bam. Like, I'd rather they stretched that out. I don't love... So, higher up on my list is The Last Jedi, which there's actually a poster of right here. One of the things I loved about that was subverting the whole... People are all... Hey, buddy, yeah. You got opinions on this, too? People are all... from the same like bloodlines, you know. If your dad is a powerful person, you're a powerful person. I liked the reveal that Rey was nobody, and I felt like that here they just kind of reneged that to make the safe choice. And it was okay. It was a little bit more of the same. Not the strongest, but I still liked it. Oh boy, is this the one where I'm gonna lose people? I love Return of the Jedi. Again, at this point in the list, I'm just comparing movies that I like more than one another, but they're good. It's a nice wrap up to the story. I like the Ewoks. That's why I adopted one. I like the final confrontation. I love the whole scene at the beginning of the movie, the Jabba's palace scene. I love the unceremonious end of Boba Fett because I'm not going to go on my Boba Fett rant, but everybody loves that dude because he has a cool costume, and I like that this movie just knocks him into a pit without any sort of fanfare or anything. He just fights it. This is one of the ones that has maybe the cringier acting scenes. A lot of the older ones, everybody likes to say that the prequels have really, really bad acting in them, which they do, because Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman do not do a great job with the bad dialogue written for them. Return of the Jedi has some scenes. One of the cheesiest scenes in all of Star Wars is when they're like talking to, they ask Han Solo, is his team ready? And all the main characters are like, I'm in, you can count on me. Luke shows up out of nowhere just to come in on cue. It's really cheesy stuff. Still good, still neat. Definitely a better watch before the special editions, because there's a lot of cool Muppets in the older one. This one, I think, is the one that gets hurt the most by the special edition refurbishing, add new CG where we don't need CG. The Ewoks didn't need to blink. They were fine. The Last Jedi... Oh boy, that's a bit redundant, isn't it? I love The Last Jedi. I can recognize that it has some problems, but I love seeing Mark Hamill come back as this like older, broken Luke Skywalker. But I also like that he's still whiny, because Luke at this core is whiny. I love all the training stuff with Rey. I love the connection with her and Kylo Ren and the exploration of like the gray side of the Force, because that's something new. I love the reveal in this that she's nobody, which they undo in Rise of Skywalker, because a lot of the themes in this movie are kind of subverting that whole bloodline thing. It could be anyone. The very last shot is some nobody kid using the Force to pick up a broom. I love that stuff. Has a really cool battle at the end. I love the confrontation between Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren in the AT-AT Walker, or AT-AT, or I always called them AT-AT Walkers, whatever. Where he's like ghosting himself out and he's just messing with him. I love that. A lot of people have problems with this movie, which I got a couple issues. The casino scene isn't great. That whole subplot that they like had to give Finn something to do, so they introduce this one very forgettable character, Rose, and they need to go find Benicio del Toro, I guess, who he does a good job too, but that whole subplot really slows the movie down. It's silly. It just kind of felt like we need something for these characters to do. One thing that people have issues with is Leia gets like shot out into space and uses the Force to push herself back onto the ship, and everyone went, the Force can do that, it can't make you fly. Okay, Yoda, a tiny little Muppet guy, uses the Force to pick an X-Wing up out of a swamp. Leia, who comes from, and we know those bloodlines are important, comes from the most powerful Jedi bloodline, pushes herself, a 90-pound woman, through zero gravity, and everybody is like, no, I don't believe this. Like, really? But overall, I liked Last Jedi. That's why it's higher up in the rankings for me. All right, Empire Strikes Back is an awesome movie, and when people say what is the best Star Wars movie, this is kind of like the right answer, because it's exciting, it's dramatic, it throws some surprises your way, it has a lot of cool, iconic scenes. It's a great movie. I love the fight between Luke and Darth Vader at the end. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. I love every scene with Han Solo and Princess Leia. This introduces us to Yoda, and he's a Muppet, not CG. He's like actually a puppet, and it looks great. This introduced one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Star Wars characters, Lando Calrissian, who is who has this really cool space cape, and I've always thought that was just baller. Why isn't this higher on my list? Why are there two movies above it? I love Empire. I rewatch Empire a lot, and maybe it's because I've seen it so much, but Empire's a little bit slow. There's a middle that drags just a tiny little bit. I think that the other two on the list are just slightly more engaging. Number 2 on my list is The Force Awakens, and I know that that's going to tick people off. I love this movie. I loved the hype about it. I loved going at midnight to see the premiere. I loved seeing Han Solo in the trailer. I mean, like a lot of other people, I like teared up at that. It was so awesome. All the new characters are likable and introduced in a way that they're still interesting, and it doesn't feel like they hijack the plot. They give enough time for the old characters, but they still feel like their own established entities. I know a lot of people say, oh, this is just the plot of the first movie again. Kind of, but it's a bit subversive. For one, you kind of have a flip-flop of your hero and villain. Whereas in A New Hope, your protagonist is extremely whiny and... Yeah, I was talking about your favorite Star Wars movie. Are you insulted that I called Luke Skywalker whiny? So whereas you have a calmer, collected Darth Vader versus a whiny Luke Skywalker, here, your villain is a whiny child who is trying to... It's like a kid in their dad's clothing. Trying and you see him have temper tantrums and stuff, whereas Rey is a bit more optimistic and put together. And I really like that. I like the villain, like the new character, love the way the old characters fit into it. Yeah, there's a lot in there that are like little fan servicey, like, hey, for fans of the film, here, this is for you. But I'm a fan of the films, so I liked those. I think the humor is well balanced with the drama, and I love the end of this. And finally, my favorite of the Skywalker saga is Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, the first Star Wars movie. If I'm going to go back and rewatch a Star Wars movie, this is almost always the first one that I go for. I remember watching this as a really little kid and just being swept up in this adventure. Everything feels new, which is funny because it's the oldest. I love that the characters are together in this, whereas in the other movies, they're kind of spread apart, kind of given their own arcs. I like the simplicity of this story. We're introduced to a lot of cool creatures, a lot of great Jim Henson creations. I like that it's kind of told through the eyes of 3PO and R2-D2, which I was sold on it immediately when it's like, oh, two of the main characters are robots. I'm in. The pacing in this is solid. The villain's great. We don't talk enough about Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin. He's a great bad guy. He's scary. He's stoic. You can tell even like Vader's kind of like respectful of him. Now that there's 1,000 novels, comics, all sorts of stuff, very successful TV show. Not that those aren't cool, but I feel like we've mined a lot of that. And this is just here to tell us a cool space story. It was never meant to be, I think, anything taken all that seriously, but people loved it enough that now it's considered like fantastic cinema. It's funny because it's just kind of a George Lucas's take on a B sci-fi movie, but because of the love put into it, it's blown into this giant thing. And there you have it. Those are my favorite and there you have it. That's my ranking for the core Star Wars Skywalker saga. Again, this is just my opinion. These are the ones that are my favorites, not telling you which ones are the best made movies. It's just what's for me. Do you have any final thoughts, George? No, I do not want to hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise again. Thanks for viewing, guys, and have a good one. See ya.